So this will be part 3 of the ISTJ panel, and I'm going to be discussing the sexual modalities in ISTJs. So I have 2 guests with me today. I've got Jamie Harvill and I've got Grace Owens Sparks. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves, tell us your full OPS type, how you got into OPS, and any interesting facts about you. So, who wants to start?
I'll go. So I'm Jamie, and I'm a visual, so FM, SITE, blast, sleep, play, consume. So pretty standard ISTJ with visual modality, and I got into OP kind of randomly. I'd looked into Myers-Briggs quite a bit previously in my life, and kept getting into it thinking I was going to get certified, and getting mad because none of the results were falsifiable. And I just randomly ran into some Dave and Chan videos on Facebook, and they were kind of funny. And then I realized what they were doing. I was like, oh my God, this solves the problem. But other than that, I'm a retail integrity coordinator, which means I make sure prices are correct, which is maybe a pretty expected kind of job for a visual ISTJ. So
I think so, yeah. I like that job title. Interesting.
Right?
Yeah. How's that? Okay, did you do that? Okay. I'm Grace. Hi. My full type is double feminine, SITE, blast, sleep, play, consume. And I got into OPS in like February of last year. I'd seen some of Dave's videos before, like the Dave Superpower videos. I was like, oh, this guy, his MBTI videos make the most sense. It feels like they actually are saying something. And then, I was bored, COVID times, and I'm like, you know what, this would be something fun to do. This looks like it'd be really hard to learn, and I love personality stuff. So I did that, got into it, and got my type back in July, August-ish. And yeah.
All right. Sounds great. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm Laura, and my type is MF, SITE, blast, play, sleep, consume. So I got into OPS October 2018. It was interesting because I kind of stumbled upon it just kind of by accident, because I was into multiple typology Facebook groups, and they have on there like a blurb that says recommended for you, and it was unofficial objective personality, and I was intrigued by the title because it said objective personality, and I kind of was interested in how do they measure personality more objectively. I didn't know at the time that it was a whole new personality system. So I went in there, being my consumed last self, not having really consumed the system at all. There's all these odd terminology, masculine, feminine, the animals, jumpers, like what is all this? But the group was really supportive. They helped me answer my questions. They then directed me to Dave and Chan's channel, and I watched that, and I just got into the system, and I got typed in March 2019. And I currently work as a librarian, which I guess in some ways is kind of a stereotypical ISTJ profession. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is kind of talk more in depth about how the modalities kind of affect our daily lives and how we do things. So we have 3 of the 4 modalities represented. We don't have an MM here. We just don't have any MM ISTJs that I know of that are active in the community. But if you happen to know any MM ISTJs, you can talk about what they're like, or we can speculate on what an MM ISTJ might look like in the wild. So I guess
I do want to see that at some point. That double masculine ST blast, that's got to be something else. Like,
I mean, I know double masculine ESTJs. I do know a few of those.
yeah.
And yeah, their ST blast is pretty intense, and it's pretty direct and kind of aggressive. It can be kind of bossy and insistent. So I guess it would be similar for an ISTJ, maybe, I don't know, maybe a little more toned down. I don't know, but still pretty intense.
Yeah. Oh no. See, I thought Jamie was gonna be like, what? My brain's like, oh, well, she's got the masculine TE. She's gonna like talk more. It's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be fine. Nope. It's so funny.
No, my brain's like kind of fried today, and because I am usually real. Don't worry, we'll get there. I'll get warmed up here.
Yeah, same. Yeah, well, so I don't know a double masculine ISTJ, but I do have a double masculine husband who is not an ISTJ. So I feel like it's more clear to me the differences, but I mean, it's we just have opposite strategies. Like he's got the masculine TE, and so he's very pushy with the tribe, and I sometimes feel like I literally have to like rein him in a little, because he's also an IP. So he's like, what? This is fine. They want me to do this. It's gonna be not necessarily. So yeah, and I do, like, he makes it more obvious when I'm being double feminine. He's like, why are you being this way? I'm like, I don't want to people mad at me. He's like, I'm not gonna be mad at you. I'm like, they might be. He's like, no, they won't be. I'm like, you don't know. Yeah. And yeah, like a lack of confidence with the SI particularly.
No, I get that. I started seeing a guy here in the last couple of months, and I always date, MF. So it's really funny, and him in particular, because he actually has masculine FI at the top. Like that much I know for sure about him. So like he's very responsible for the relationship and the vibe, and so like we had a whole conversation about this, and he was like, yeah, you're just a shit stirrer. So like I was like, yes, but you need that, because you come to me and I will stir the shit in a direction that favors you. He's like, oh, you're speaking my language.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, that tracks. Yeah. Like Eric will be like, no, like Grace was really annoyed when you did X the other day. I'm like, why are you saying that? Like, well, it's true, isn't it? I'm like, yeah, but I wasn't gonna bring it up. It's not, pick your battles. Makes me solve things sometimes. So
right.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I guess I want to start with the sensory modality and kind of talk a little bit more in depth about that. So I guess first of all, how does the sensory modality affect your memory? Memory of facts versus concepts. Do you relate to what it says about feminine sensory? Like, not as good as with facts, but better with concepts. Does that track for you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely.
I mean, I don't know, it gets confused in my brain with like blasting. So to me, it feels like more what I'm focusing on is I need to be able to blast the thing in order to feel like I know it, which may not even necessarily be true. But yeah, it needs to feel solid in some way. Maybe that is a masculine anything. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I guess
I
it
actually,
totally
I
depending on
felt,
what's solid.
What?
what?
No, I said that. I said that. Yeah, yeah. I think so. You know, like if the concepts are solid, then it feels solid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You get me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's definitely like, because I thought I had like under Myers-Briggs, I had self-typed as an INTJ, which is, I mean, that masculine intuition thing, it's real. Like, yes, I am tracking, like, I've had my type and I've had plenty of time to kind of adjust to it. And so like the stuff I am responsible, I am responsible for the sensory. Like there's no mistaking that now that I can kind of see what I'm doing. But it's also, it's not real. You know, it's just like, yeah, it's this sensory bullshit that I'm just constantly like drowning in. But that's not what's actually real. That's not. So one of my coworkers was,
Okay, that's interesting. You say that the sensory bullshit is not real. I guess for me as
yeah,
masculine sensory, it does feel very real. And it's like,
yeah.
okay, there's sensory. It may feel like bullshit because I don't FI like it, but I still have to deal with it. So like sometimes like masculine any they'll make these predictions or and they feel really confident that it's right. Like I know that this is gonna like I think this is gonna happen, or this is the one right possibility or concept. Do you feel that?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, because like, and it's funny too, because like you totally have like the scatter array, like here's the field of possibilities that could happen, and then that SI comes in and is like, and it's gonna be this one, and you're like,
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting.
yeah,
I guess I have, well, as feminine any, I have that as well. You know, you see all these different possibilities, but then I can't settle on one because it's like, well, this could happen, that could happen, and it's kind of more like a scatter shot than a laser focus, I guess. So then I can kind of get overwhelmed by possibilities because it's like it's chaos.
yeah.
That's
I
kind
mean,
of the
it
way
is
Yeah.
one
I
of those.
experience it.
It is one of those things where like I don't trust the guest on the one hand, without a lot of evidence. So like I want them both to be there, right? Like I know that if I'm just going on sensory, like I'm gonna miss all this crap because the sensory is constantly changing and I can't keep track of it. And even though that's what I'm doing all day, I can't. So like there has to be like somewhere in the middle that it meets. And yeah, when that happens, like you won't shake me off of it.
Okay. So do you mean like where the facts all kind of fit together and it conceptually makes sense? Is that kind of your
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I can relate to that. I can relate to that as well. It's kind of like this because yeah, I mean, even though my sensory is masculine, there's still more sensory out there than I could ever possibly take in.
Oh yeah.
And I think the
Yeah.
effect is worse too if you're consumed last too.
Yeah.
Sense that you're missing something.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't
Consume
even know
last.
what you're missing until, until it hits you in
Until it
the face.
slaps you in the face.
Uh,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. My mom is audio SI, first, and that's one of the big differences between us, is that she's always like, oh, the world is full of possibilities, anything could happen, you never know. And I'm like, no, this thing right here, this thing's gonna happen, this is the pattern, okay?
Okay.
And you need to just accept it and get in line. And she's like, no, it's fine. Like,
So what is her, so I guess what is her masculine SI like? Yeah.
This one particular sensory thing right here, this is the thing that is important in life. This is gonna save the world.
Oh,
This
okay.
is,
Oh no.
and
Oh,
what she
no.
doesn't realize about herself is that this thing changes. Sometimes it's this thing, and then 7 years later, it's a totally different thing. But right now,
Oh,
this
yeah.
masculine SI thing right here,
Yeah,
this
I've
is the most
got-
important thing in the world.
Yeah, I sometimes like I have that too. Or sometimes I'll get like overly hung up on a certain detail or a word in something, and then it's like I gotta like step back, look at the larger context, and yeah, exactly. You know, the sensory can change over time, and yeah, yeah, she got consumed last, right?
Yeah, and she's
Yeah,
TI, so even
yeah,
more
so
just like
it's probably
solidified.
even harder to track the changes again.
Well, that makes
Yeah.
a really interesting, that makes a really interesting contrast, because like, because I do like, I do the SI, like getting obsessed about the things, but it's like, I'm kind of like on to the next thing, and I like really freak out about the concept. Like, I will go on and on about how roundabouts are the best form of intersection, like, or like, or ranting about how evil daylight savings time is, because like the concept is what's going to drive me up the wall, and I'm going to sit there on that concept for 30 minutes and drive everyone crazy with it. Or oh, I got really upset about daylight savings a few years ago.
Mhm.
And if you've ever had one of those moments where you just absolutely lose your mind, but you have this streak of like clarity, crystal clarity about that one thing that's like absolutely crazy. So I lost my mind over daylight savings time, and I was like, okay, that's it. Everybody else can keep changing their clocks, and I'm not going to anymore. So I like set my phone to, I live in Central Time, so I set my phone to Saskatchewan time, because they don't do daylight savings. So it was just in standard time year round. And anytime I needed to know like what if it was during daylight time, I had to like mentally calculate, because I still had to like go along with everybody else doing their bullshit schedules. I was like, no, I am going to have the correct time on my phone.
Just making more work for yourself. That's
Yeah,
classic
yeah.
masculine TE. It's
like
like, no,
yeah.
I'm telling y'all, I don't care if the entire country is doing this. I'm not, and y'all should follow me.
Exactly.
Oh.
It starts with one person. So
Yeah.
Amazing.
So.
No,
And
you don't know
I mean, you live like, yeah, and I'm thinking you live in the far west of North Dakota. It would just make more sense,
Yeah.
like if it was in mountain time, like.
Oh yeah, no, and there's this change that's coming up where they're going to keep us permanently on daylight savings time. This is going to be an absolute nightmare come like early January, because already when we're in like standard time, the sun doesn't like sunrise isn't until like 9 in the morning. So when we go to daylight savings in winter, we're going to have a period of time where the sun doesn't come up until 10 o'clock in the morning.
Oh wow, that's just,
I don't know if y'all understand.
that is just crazy. Yeah, I read about China. Did you know that China has one time zone for the whole country?
Yikes.
I mean,
It's just crazy.
honestly, the solution to this is because I'm on this pattern, you guys. So the solution to this, we all just do one time for the entire world, because it doesn't matter. We will see the sunrise at the same point in time, no matter what time is on the clock. We can all figure out what time we want to get up.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to, 8 a.m. doesn't have to be the start time for everyone everywhere in the world. And if you do that, that fixes all these problems.
Yeah.
Like when you're trying to calculate time, like arrival times from like if you're flying somewhere, or if you're, I actually had a thing calculating HR work time, with people going back and forth across time zones out here, and it was just an absolute nightmare. But everybody on the same time, that fixes all these problems. You still have to do the calculation for like how far away they are based on, you know, sunrise, sunset, but everything else is fixed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just saying.
Yeah, that was part of my dad's job. Figuring out the time zones.
Yeah. No time.
Yeah. And then you have like the United States, like will start their daylight savings time earlier in the year than some countries. So then there's like that period of time where
no, when I was a kid, daylight savings time was before my birthday. Now it's, or wait, no, it was after my birthday. Now it's before my birthday. And like, just why are we changing it around? Why was the first time not good enough? That's definitely my last sleep coming in there. No change.
Okay. Okay, we are really getting on an observer right here. This is so single observer. It's not even funny. Okay. I guess one thing I did want to ask you is, how do you relate to ISTJs that have the opposite sensory modality? So for you two, it'd be masculine SI. You know, what are some differences you see?
I just always say it's like the confidence is wild to me. Is and piggybacking off of what Jamie said, it is very much like, ooh, shiny. Like there's a sensory over there also. So it's like when I'm cleaning, it's like, okay, I want to clean this, but then oh no, I see that other thing over there. It needs cleaning, and then I'm like, ah. It's like I feel like I'm being pulled away from the thing. I'm literally still cleaning this. I can wait until I finish.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, exactly.
So I guess like what do you mean by the confidence? So like do masculine SIs seem more confident in the sensory to you, or?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
like
100%.
Laura, when I first watched some of your videos, I was like, man, because you're like, yeah, so obviously this and this and this and this and this, and I'm like, oh, okay.
And I don't always, and I don't always, it's funny because I don't always feel so confident. I just feel like super responsible for it. And I guess if it's masculine, that there's more, I guess there's more an intense focus on having to get all the facts and details lined up.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
And so I guess one thing that I guess I'll answer it in reverse for the feminine sensory ISTJs is that I think you're a little more loose on that. You know, you're a little more like, okay, you know, we don't have to get every fact and detail right. We don't have to be so hyper specific. And you're more confident on your intuitions, I think, than I am. You know, and I'm like, wait,
but it doesn't make sense.
How can you be so confident? You don't have enough facts. You gotta gather more data. You don't have enough proof.
It is weird because like if you think about it in decider terms, it's like, well, I don't remember what happened, but I know that guy, he is trying to mess with me, you know, like that's, if you were in that frame of mind, it's like, which is weird. But that's how it feels. Is like, well, I don't really know what happened at the end of the day, but I know that this thing was important, or but it's always from an anxious place. Like that's how I recognize demon state for me, is the anxiety I feel about it, you know?
Yeah. No, that's like that confidence thing. Like I totally get that. And part of it too, like, and you'll see this, I think, kind of in masculine sensory versus feminine.
I know.
Are you there?
Jamie?
We were too far away from the event, and I couldn't remember. Like I was like, I don't remember. I know we had this. I remember that we had this conversation, and we were going to do this thing, but I don't remember why we didn't. And so like he's got all of the facts like in his head of what happened at that moment, at least experientially. He can't know my motive or anything like that, but like, and so, and I was almost in tears because I was like, I don't know. I don't remember. You're probably right, but I don't know what was going on with me internally or anything like that. And so like, because it's the way Shan said it, like it's like having amnesia. It really is. So like the assumption is that all of the sensory is changing all the time. Okay, truthfully, I do get it. It isn't technically all changing all the time, but that's how we experience it. And so like, it would be impossible to try and like keep that in your memory for like over time. But like you just can't. So what you have to hone in on is like, okay, so there's this detail here that kind of points in this direction, and then there's this other one, and they kind of like lock together, and it's like, okay, so here's kind of the overall thing that was happening, and you just kind of go with a gist. And even though like you're not even responsible for guessing, and it's not a guess, it's based on like the few sensory inputs that you decided were important enough to like really like track. They like either they hit you emotionally, or they cause you to move, right? So like watching someone who actually can track the sensory, like one, it's amazing. It's like a magic trick. Like, wow, you remembered all those things. That's amazing.
I
Well, I told somebody that I remember the exact day I got my OPS type back. It was March 8, 2019. And it's like, how do you remember that? And I'm like, well, it's just important. It was significant because it kind of, changed the way I saw myself. Well, not really changed, but it kind of solidified it. And
in the sensory.
And in the sensory, and I thought it was personally important to me. Now, contrary to anecdote, I don't remember everything. I'm actually rather hit or miss with like people's names and stuff, and some of that could be consumed last too, because sometimes I'm not always fully attentive. Somebody introduces their name and
I thought that was just because we're not freaking out enough about people. We're like,
that could be too,
whatever.
Yeah.
Not afraid of being quizzed later. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not a big deal to ask again. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Can you just tell me? We're not that worried.
You know what? I had a coworker once who called me out on not remembering his name and other people's names, and it like that feminine FI just like I was like, so I at that, not since then, but at that particular job, I made a point to learn everyone's first and last name. There are like 120 people.
Yeah. Well, I had a friend back in college, and he like really had an extraordinary memory, and it was almost like savant like he said, well, when I was in high school, I remembered every people's schedules, and you know, and I'm like, and I mean, just things like that. And he'd remember pi to like 100 decimal places, and
Yeah, I could do that for like a speech, and then
yeah.
the next week gone.
Yeah, I mean,
But
that's
I don't
why I
know,
was
people wait for something.
I didn't like school on some level, because it's like, okay, congratulations, I memorized this for a test. It's not gonna stick though. Like,
Yeah.
what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. No, I don't know if you did this. I got like opposite about not memorizing things. Like I've gotten to the point now where I'm like, no, I'm not gonna memorize that. Why would I do that? Why am I wasting my mental space on trying to memorize this thing that, frankly, I'm not going to remember very well. There are going to be points where I fuck it up, and I don't know if I can use the F-bomb. Anyway,
I have to figure out how to care about it. You know, how essentially I have to figure out how to put it in my IJ box.
Yeah, yeah,
And if I can do that, then I'll remember it.
yeah,
Which is
yeah. And
why,
it's
you
always
know,
easier, and I think regardless
Yeah.
of modality, what modality you have, it's going to be easier to remember something if it's, you know, if it's in your box, if it's in your DI.
that's been my strategy. Like,
Because
that's why I struggled
I'm
so
the same
hard with
way. I'm the
science.
same way too.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Like biology was a nightmare. Like,
I really liked biology. I don't know why.
On some level, I find it interesting, but the idea that I need to know for the rest of my life how all these little things work, just I could not convince myself that was necessary.
What's funny, what I really liked about biology was when we would go over genetics, because it was very like,
I did like that. Yeah.
Very predictable, and like I was like, this is the best.
It was like a kind of like a system. Yeah, that
logic puzzle.
That part was interesting. Yeah, I liked it too.
Yeah.
Well, I went into biochemistry in college, so
oh god,
I came from that background, and it came from that background. So
yeah, my mom was super into it, so it was obviously in her IJ box, and she'd be like, come on, I mean, this is all, you know, it's easy. And like, it's not though. And why? And she's like, well, of course it's interesting. Why would you not think it's interesting? I'm like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, no. I'm 100% it. No, absolutely not. Especially like chemistry was my least favorite. But that may have been, we had a geology teacher teaching our chemistry class, and I don't remember a lot of what she taught in there, because she would just do the absent-minded professor thing and just like talk quietly as she wrote on the board the entire class. Meanwhile, the 300-pound male cheerleader in our class is doing cartwheels up and down the middle of the aisle, and she's just completely oblivious to the whole thing.
okay, we're back now. Yeah, Zoom timed out of me, so I had to start a new session. So yeah, just any final thoughts you have on feminine SI, masculine NE, before we move on to the next part?
Jamie, are you klutzy at all?
Am I what? A klutzy? Yeah. Okay. I can trip on carpet. I can trip on marble. I can.
I did a comical thing with my phone, and it reminded me, oh yeah, that's the thing. So
it's one of those funny things where, like, because on the one hand I'm klutzy, but also like I'll like randomly like nearly drop something, and but then I'll like recover it and like elbow it into like a safe spot.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you're really good. And I'm like, no.
Okay. I mean, that'll happen to me too. So, I guess I did want to ask about the modalities. Like how do you relate to? So Jamie, you would be technically you'd be visual tester, audio last. Do you find that fits?
100%.
Okay.
Like yeah. When people start giving me too much information verbally, I make them stop so I can go write it down.
Mm-hmm.
And I may or may not look at it again, but like I'm like, no, we're getting into my bad area, and you're gonna yell at me.
Okay. Well, so that's interesting because I feel the same way. So I think that anecdote of being audio first for me as MF, I don't fit because I do have to write stuff down. Now, it could just be like an intentional consume last thing in part. But I guess one aspect of audio that I do relate to is just like sensitivity to like words, word usage, tone, um, having sensitivity to sounds. Like if there's some random sound in the background, I always notice it, and it's kind of hard to tune it out.
Well, now on that note, I am actually on the autism spectrum, and so
Okay.
like I can hear light bulbs. I can hear televisions that are on with the sound all the way down.
Okay.
I work in a grocery store, and dear God, the amount of like background noise in there, it's just, I mean, it's jarring.
Mm-hmm.
Compressors everywhere, and rattling carts, and people talking, and fluorescent lights. Yeah. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I will say, I actually went through occupational and physical therapy because of my oversensitivity to the senses in general when I was little. They made me do all sorts of things, and yeah, because as it stood, I would like scream if you touched me. So it was bad. But yeah, so I'm similar. I'm not as far as I know, I'm not autistic, but like SPD is something that's like it goes with autism, right? So it's like not everyone who has those issues is autistic,
I
but
think there's a correlation, but it's not 100%.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I also have touch sensitivity. It's like, don't touch me unless you ask me first.
Yeah. I wonder if SC is different about that.
Yeah.
I think SI, sensory is more personal to us. So there's this
Yeah. Mm.
kind of a sensitivity to my space, my territory.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That is, y'all are reminding me of my fights with my mother over wearing tights under dresses. Those damn things, they just bunch up everywhere, and it's horrific.
Yeah, no, for me it was the little lines on the socks, the seams. I hated them as a kid.
Oh God.
So were they like uncomfortable or? I think my problem was that sometimes those tights like it was seam would come undone and then it would run and then we would like break and it was.
That's annoying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the tights didn't bother me quite as much because it was more of an all over feeling, which tends to be easier to stop noticing, but like it's just on my foot. Watches used to do the same thing, or just like, there's something there and feels weird. Or glasses, or it could be, it just depends on the day. Some days you're more, I think, sensitive than others, but.
Okay. So I guess, Grace, you would be a tester first and then visual. Do you relate to that? And kinesthetic last.
I have always said like I'm terrible at sports, and it's true. I'm very like that was what I was made fun of for, bullied for in elementary school. Terrible runner. It's awful. There's not a whole lot of info on double feminines, I feel like, but
And I'm still trying to fully understand Tester, because I don't know, it almost feels like they made it up on the spot just so that they could have 4 of them. Okay, because you go to other psychology websites, they have like 3 styles: your visual, your auditory, your kinesthetic, and it's like they wanted to.
yeah, I mean, I
We're
do
trying to
see
think of
it
something,
though.
okay, that's opposite of kinesthetic, but then it feels like there's so much overlap because it's all kind of body related. I guess the difference would be that kinesthetic, you're more physically pushing on the world, and I don't know, Tester, you're kind of more being moved by it.
Elastigirl.
Okay.
It's like surfing. The way I see it, you're like instead of like, there's this thing here and I'm gonna push it over here. It's kind of like you just get your little surfboard and you're gonna kind of, like I
So-
thought I was double feminine because I really feel like I
You there? Yeah,
Man.
another blip.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh dear.
Uh,
Maybe I should talk.
yeah, okay. You're welcome.
Yeah, being double feminine, it's like you just try to, oh, she left. Oh, okay. She's having problems. Just move around things. Like Eric, my husband, he's double masculine, and so I think of the Kool-Aid guy that just like crashes through walls. Like that's his only solution in his head. It's like, yeah, I just gotta push forward. Or I'm like, I'm just gonna move around this thing. Like, why would you pick a fight with a rock or a tree? Like, just move around it. Not that it's that literal, but that's how it feels sometimes. Like there's other way. I'm always saying there's other ways to go about this. There's other options. So I like, and it's been really interesting getting to meet so many masculine DE people, because it's fascinating to me in a way. It's like, oh, people actually like, this is just like their normal. This is just how they go at life.
Yeah.
The whole.
That was kind of the next thing I kind of wanted to get into was that side of the modalities.
Yeah.
So yeah. So when Jamie gets back, she'll probably have some interesting things to say about masculine DE because she has it. So
Yeah.
I guess she's back.
Oh.
Come in. Hi, Jamie. Welcome back. Yeah, so we were just starting to talk about masculine DE and feminine DE. So you want to weigh in?
Hi. Did you hear
Okay.
Laura?
Hi.
I heard feminine DE and I wasn't sure. That was about where I joined back in.
Okay. Yeah. So we wanted to talk some about masculine DE versus feminine DE and ISTJs. So, and you kind of mentioned some already with the daylight savings time and like this is what's going to work for people and kind of be more shovey on it. I think I as a feminine TE would be like, yeah, that's not the most ideal, but if people seem insistent on it, I'll just kind of go along with them, but quietly I'm thinking, this is
Yeah, no, I definitely don't have problems pushing people. or maybe the correct way to say it is that I do have problems pushing people.
Oh.
But
Well, you don't see yourself, maybe you don't see yourself as having a problem, but maybe other people see it as a problem. Is that
Right, exactly. Yeah. Like,
okay?
guess what, guys? You're gonna get pushed today. So I
Yeah.
hope you're ready.
Well, one interesting
Yeah.
thing that they say about masculine DE is that, you know, like they'll kind of feel more feminine on the inside. Do you relate to that?
Yes. Oh, cringe.
Right.
Cringe. Oh my God. Okay. So a long time ago, I was working, and of course I was doing my masculine TE, just pushing on people. What happened was, so we got this new manager, and this new manager was kind of being a jerk to all the people in my FI that I worked with, and doing stuff they didn't like, calling nicknames they didn't like, stuff like that. So I went on the offensive, and I just I am really good at figuring out what fears people have and kind of playing with that. So anyway.
So okay, so okay. I'm sorry. Go back here. So what fears people have in playing with that? Like kind of
Yeah,
kind of like I don't know.
a little bit psycho.
Lack of a better word, like manipulating or kind of like
I mean,
psychoanalyzing.
well, okay.
What do you mean?
Yeah, no. Well, people kind of, they have little tells when they talk. You can tell, like, I'm afraid of looking stupid, or because some people, like, I expect to look stupid. I've got masculine TE and it's double activated. I'm gonna be throwing stuff at the wall all day long. Like, I expect to look stupid and annoy people. So, but so yeah, you know, you kind of pick up, like, or maybe this person gets really nervous around birds or something. You know, just little things like that. You just see how they work in the tribe and with the world around them. And so this guy, I could tell that he was going to be self-conscious about his intellect, because I've got masculine TE and he doesn't. He was, yeah. So he was, and he was doing stuff that was ticking off the people that I care about. So I just was ruthless about correcting his grammar, and of course, it's one of those things where you start doing it and they get self-conscious, so they do it more. So it's like this cycle that kind of builds and builds, and so I was doing this, and then one day he came up and he said, "You know, Jamie, you're kind of intimidating." And I laughed, because I was like, "Oh yes, I'm so threatening." Ah. I'm looking back now, I was like, yeah, you were threatening. Jesus, what the hell? You're going around analyzing people for their fears, and playing on them, being like, yeah, I got you. And you're like,
so I mean, is it fair to say that maybe other people see you as more threatening than you see yourself? I don't know.
I'm making a point to own it now. So now I'm like, yeah, no, I'm dangerous. And once you realize that it's actually an empowering thing, and you're like, oh, so I can do things, and I can give myself the cookie. I can, it improves your relationships so much, because I've got that TE, so I want things to work for people. So recognizing that I am dangerous, that is, it's better for my relationships. It makes things work better for people. But yeah, it used to be I didn't own it. I was just,
you know what? I mean, the world needs masculine TEs like you. I mean, who's going to reform daylight savings time?
Exactly.
Okay. So what about the flip side? Your feminine FI. Do you feel like what you value kind of changes over time, or do you not feel as
Yeah,
solid there? Is it like
it's kind of so I'm really so the guy that I'm seeing now, he's got masculine FI at the top, and so and I do have. I'm really trying to like lean into that with him, and it's kind of funky because like I feel like I'm a flake. That's how it feels. I feel like a flake because I'm like, yeah, I like this thing until this other thing works better. I'm like, and so we're going over here now. That thing that I used to think was the best, no, not anymore.
okay? Yeah. Yeah, because I think for me it's a little different. It's kind of like I kind of hold on to my FI longer. I mean my FI can move eventually, if I'm given enough good reason to, but it's generally like a slower process, I think for me. And if it's like if it's somebody like hurt my FI in any way, sometimes I kind of dwell on it and I get stuck there, and it's like sometimes it's harder to pull out of that.
I could see that because like when somebody hurts my FI, like my first thing is like, okay, well how do I need to move?
Okay.
How do I change this so it's better?
Okay.
And
And for
and
me,
it makes
it's
me
kind of
feel
like there's an inner aggression, kind of like I want to punch you. I don't, but there's that urge is there. So it's like, I guess that's where my
I don't
double
want to,
masculine sleep is dangerous. It's like,
yeah, no,
Double
I get
masculine
that.
sleep. Yeah. My mom has it. So yeah, it's like you just don't even try. Don't even
okay,
try.
yeah. So Grace, I was going to ask you about your feminine TE and masculine FI, if you had anything you wanted to say.
Yeah, I mean it's weird because I often don't feel like it's like I don't know what's in my FI until you tell me otherwise, and I'm like, excuse me. No. um yeah, it's like so like the whole double feminine thing, it's like, oh, I'm flexible, everything's fine, but there is like some sort of like metal shielding, around my heart that, you try to stab me, you're gonna clank and then fire and burning. uh, it so
So do you
that's
kind of
the
relate to that anecdote of cat energy that Dave and Shannon sometimes describe for masculine DI?
um yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, literally,
I
actually.
think we were both watching it with your claws coming out.
Oh.
That
I didn't think of that. Yeah, no, there's one time, it's the most dumb and embarrassing thing, but the guy I was dating had cheated on me, and I was so mad. He'd come to my high school to see the girl he's going with behind my back, and he didn't even go to our school. And I found his car in the parking lot, and he had one of those dumb Jack in the Box things on his antenna, his car antenna, and I just had all this anger inside. And so I took the thing off of the antenna, and all I could manage to do was just put it on the ground right next to the antenna. It needs to be within visual sight. I can't. It's too bad to just like chuck it somewhere. I gotta, like, for all of my vengeance talk, I'm not. The follow through is not there. So.
But do you get in your mind that you're tempted to?
Oh, 100%. No, like,
Yeah.
that was
Same
the most angry
here.
I've ever
It's
been in
like,
my life.
yeah. I'm very,
Was
very unlikely to act on it, but there's that temptation, that impulse is.
Yeah, no, again, this is high school. I remember laying in bed at night imagining, what if I just drive by his house and crash my car into his and then drive away. I don't care. At this point, I just want him to suffer. And I'm like, no,
I
my
like
car
how
is
you,
too.
come up with this, like, it would be so innocent. It could happen to anyone. Like,
Whereas it's like the masculine DE just like punches first and then regrets later. It's like, oh,
yeah.
maybe I shouldn't have yelled at that person. It's like, so yeah, you got to pick your poison, I guess. Not that anyone really gets to pick.
No, I like my masculine DE is loving this. It's like, oh wow, that's like forethought. You thought about this, and then you tried to come up with like a plausible scenario where it's not like, no, it's not my fault. It just happened, you know.
Yeah. But no, I've driven my car over there too many times. It'd be too recognizable. People would be like, oh yeah, you're that girl that comes to your house. Yeah, she like wrecked your car. Yeah. Yeah. I mean it's what people think of, the yappy dog that doesn't actually do anything, It's like I don't know. I mean, is that masculine DE or masculine FI? I don't know.
I
But
think
that's
the
how I feel.
masculine DE is kind of like that yappy dog, yap, 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 but then eventually they'll kind of go back hiding, and because inside they're more vulnerable. And it's like the cat energy is more opposite. They're kind of on the outside, they seem all nice and they're kind of more passive, but then you corner them, then they really bite.
Yeah, don't corner me.
Yeah.
You won't enjoy it. Yeah. And it is surprising to people. I've said this on other interviews, but it's like I have lines in the sand, and if you cross them, then we're not okay anymore. And
yeah,
but that doesn't happen. It's a rare thing.
Yeah, and I mean, for the most part, I'm pretty nice. I'm pretty flexible, and I guess I can put up with a lot of crap until just a certain point. And
yeah, it's like they're expecting me to be more submissive totally than a masculine DE, but they're not seeing the other side of it, I guess everyone should see what you would think that as a society we would have figured this out if this is, what's actually going on. But
yeah, it's kind of like, in a way, the masculine DI is more dangerous than the masculine DE. Because it seems like, even though, because it's like they don't attack as much, but when they do, it seems like the attack is stronger.
Yeah. But then I look at the times when I remember myself attacking, and it really wasn't much of anything. Like the most recent time in my life I can think of that I feel like qualifies under that. What I did is just disappear. Like, just like, nope, done. And I mean, that's what I did when the one time I broke up with a guy. I'm like, yeah, we're done. And that was it. And it's like, if I am really sure, then I don't feel the need to think about it anymore. But most of the time I am unsure.
Yeah.
So I guess it makes the clear moments feel even more so clear.
Yeah. Yeah. And it might depend too if it's coming more from your TE or more from your FI.
Well, I can be really ST logical about things sometimes, right? And people will want to be like in their feelings about something. And if I've already gotten to a logical place, if I'm not feeling as emotional about it, it can come out that way, I think.
Yeah,
but if you're in my FI, I'm gonna be emotional about whatever's going on with you.
Yeah, I think it's kind of similar for me. It's like, like logically it'll be pretty flexible because I can kind of see multiple reasons for things, and I can easily be convinced of other people's reasons and logic, but then like what I'm feeling and what I'm valuing deep down, that's a little more solid and harder to change.
Yeah. It's tricky.
It is.
I wish, I don't know. Everyone wishes they had what they didn't have. The idea of having masculine demons feels useless.
Oh yeah, both. Yeah, you would have two masculine demons. So do you relate to Hulk syndrome?
Yes, that's kind of what I'm describing. Is
Yep.
like, yeah. People normally my response to most things is, yeah, whatever, I'm flexible. Especially now I've adopted the word flexible. And
I relate with that.
yeah, and but then like, so like when COVID happened, my health has never been good, and I was going to be more careful, and that's something that I have learned over the years. Like it's been beaten into me, so it's something I'm more confident on. And so I told my friends, like, no, I'm not going to do this. No, I'm not going to do that. And they were like, where's this coming from? Like suddenly you have like these defined things you will and won't do. That's never like, normally I'm like, oh, what are you doing today? Cool, I'll go do that with you, you know. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And yeah, that confused people for sure.
Mhm.
That I was no longer, I mean, like I had a lot of like older sister energy with some people, and they're like, oh, I think you should probably do this, it'd be good. I'm like, I'm not gonna do that though. So I don't think that's a good idea.
I like that because I felt a lot of pushback during COVID as well, like the need to. But the way I would do it was totally because I didn't want to expose my FI. So like because it's feminine, so like so I would just kind of be like, and I would, you know, kind of equivocate and come up with, you know, well, you know, this is your logic and this is my logic and da 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 da. That was my whole thing, and because I wouldn't, I would not budge because it's double feminine, but I do have that savior sleep, and I will, once I've got this value in my head, I'm like, nope, this is it. I'm not moving. Will not move. But I will respect what you want to do with your version of that. So
And I mean, for me, it was like, I'll respect you as long as you're not harming other
because I have
people.
to make it.
And it was kind
Like
of
it's so.
What'd you say, Jamie?
I'm sorry, my audio cut out for a second there. I can hear. But yeah, no, it's kind of dumb because I feel it's almost like I feel like I'm giving other people permission to have their own opinions because that's what I want for myself, right? So that
did the internet go out again? Can you hear?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, I think
I respect that. You have permission. Arrogant.
I think COVID was just like a really hard time, you know, just I mean, I think regardless of what type you were, I'm suppose different types maybe dealt with it differently, but it was like, I think for me as an IJ, it's just like you feel like, you know, everything's out of control, you know, and just kind of the
We're living in a
unpredictability.
dystopia.
We don't know how long this is going to last. We don't know how many people are going to die. We don't know if there's ever going to be a cure for it. You know, it was just all these unknowns, and then you just had people from both extremes of the spectrum, and there was no middle ground. It was kind of like you had people that were paranoid or afraid of everything, like they didn't even want to go outside the front door. They were so afraid to get sick. And then you had people that just kind of denied that it was happening, you know, and then they were, not only were they hurting themselves, but they were hurting other people because they weren't distancing themselves from other people. And so, yeah, it was, but anyway, I think we got 8 minutes left. So, you have any final thoughts? Any other things you want to add? I guess I have one more question, and that is, did you always kind of think you were an ISTJ, or did you ever consider other types? And do you think it relates to your modalities in any way?
I think it could be related to my modalities. I thought I was an INFP, but frankly, that was just because that's what the test told me. But before I took a test, an MBTI test, I thought, oh, I'm definitely a sensor. And then it told me I was super intuitive. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm super intuitive. Sensory says I'm intuitive, so I must be. Yeah, so like the way I lived my life, as I've said before, and to other people, is like a really anxious INFP, because I just thought I was bad at life, you know. It's and I like my first thought when I saw ISTJ on my email was like, I'm not capable enough. Like those people are like really like with it. They've got everything lined up. They're just doing their thing and they know what they're doing and they just logical and like I'm like, how is that me? Like it was like a honored to be like an honorary ISTJ or something. It's like, I mean, so that was my feelings, but
Okay. And I mean, it's not surprising that maybe you thought you were an INFP, you know, considering that the N and F are both masculine.
right. Yeah. Um, yeah, it was weird. It's like somehow I got it in my head that the ST stuff wasn't important or valuable, and also that I couldn't succeed at it. And there's all these like ideas in my head, and getting typed made me have to like double check that and be like, okay, well, they say, oh, everyone thinks they're SI, and that, oh, I organize my pantry, therefore I'm SI. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm not SI. But I don't organize my pantry.
Okay, what about you, Jamie?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the first time I got tested as an ENTJ. And I was like, I don't know, 17, something like that. And so like, if you get into the MBTI, like the whole thing where they talk about, your development through time, it kind of makes sense, because that was a point where I was really like getting into my masculine TE and really like, I was spending a lot of time there. And the masculine intuition, it will look like a savior thing. Just because you respect it more, like, it feels more real. But yeah, and I mean, like over time, I ended up taking the test several times, and this is how I ended up getting away from it. Because like, depending on my mood, the test results would be.
See, I got INFP every time.
Oh, at least you're consistent. I got multiple types, but usually I would score like in the IN quadrant, which is really interesting. And I think it was just the way the questions were phrased on the test, because sensing kind of implied some kind of narrow-mindedness, like you're less intelligent, you're not a single person. So I just couldn't agree to a lot of those S statements, even, but then I would read the type descriptions and it'd be like, well, I relate a lot to SI. I know I'm good at SI. And it was like, there's always that nagging There's always that nagging doubt. And then, and I think that's what I like about OPS is that they don't try to say like sensors are better than intuitives. It's more of an equalizing effect, and sensing's a lot more valued.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I feel like I can kind of accept that. And then I kind of sometimes I would score as an
Yeah,
F,
no,
and maybe that's
like
just because of
I remember
masculine FI, but sometimes it's like, well, am I a thinker or a feeler? I went through that, and I also considered ISFJ, but then it was like, I don't think I'm very good at FE, and so
no, I took a bunch of tests. Most of the time I would come back INTJ. And I remember
yeah, I get INTJ sometimes.
toward the end of it, I remember I got Save Your Sensor. I don't remember what the type. I think it might have been an ISTJ, but I was offended. I was offended that I typed as sensor, and it didn't click to me that I shouldn't be offended about a personality type at that time. And so that's something I've been processing since I got my OP designation. And it's like, okay, yeah, no, because there is this prejudice in the MBTI community that savior sensors they're not as intelligent, that they're narrow-minded, that that they're at times you'll run into the whole literally Hitler thing. And it's funny because I think Hitler was technically intuitive, but it's you can't.
He's an ISFJ according to OPS. David Shannon typed him as ISFJ. They typed him as FM, SIFE, blast, sleep, I think, consume, play.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. Anyway, we've got about 1 minute
play
left.
Last, definitely.
I'm just gonna.
FM and the play last.
Yeah. So anyway, I'd like to thank you all very much for both coming. We had a great discussion on modalities and ISTJs. I'm going to be doing a bonus video in the ISTJ series where I talk about social types in ISTJs. So stay tuned for that. I will also link you the playlist of the other ISTJ videos. And I also have some videos with Brian where we talk about various SI topics. So I'll link you that as well. Thanks once again for coming. If you want to see more videos, please subscribe to my channel. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.